I'm about to describe to you the best city in the entire country of Mexico and one of the overall best cities in the entire Latin world, and a city I will very soon be making one of my primary flags, and that is Guadalajara, Mexico. I am Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. I make a multi-six-figure location-independent international income while dating multiple attractive women, and I teach men like you how to do the same thing. And recently I spent several weeks in Guadalajara, Mexico. Pink Firefly and I were there. We had a great time. It is as close to an ideal Mexican city and in some respects Latin city as you can come to. And in this video, I'm going to give you various examples as to why I think that. I'll also include a lot of video clips I took while I was there in this video to give you an idea of the look and feel of the place. There's a lot of different aspects to Guadalajara, which makes it pretty interesting. And at the end of the video, I'm going to explain to you why Guadalajara is probably going to be my primary flag in all of North and South America once all my 5 flag stuff is completed in the next 6 to 12 months or so. So, with all that out of the way, let me give you the top 5 reasons why Guadalajara is the coolest city in Mexico and one of the best cities in Latin America. Now, I got to qualify this really quick. You could argue that the touristy cities might be more fun areas to go for a vacation. So you really can't compare Guadalajara to somewhere like Cabo San Lucas, or certainly a place like Cancun, which is basically like the Mexican Vegas. Those are tourist cities that you go for a vacation. I am not talking here about somewhere you'd go for a vacation, although it would be very fun to go to Guadalajara for a vacation. That's kind of what Pink Firefly and I did. I'm talking here instead about Guadalajara as a flag, either as a place you live or a place you spend a lot of time in on a semi-regular basis. I'm using that as a basis for saying that this is the best city in Mexico, because it is, instead of something like Cancun. Cancun's awesome. You want to go to Cancun, have a lot of fun, you go. You spend a week in Cancun, it's great. I've done that several times. It's amazing. But would I live in Cancun? No, I wouldn't live in Cancun. Would I live in Cabo? No, I'd go to Cabo, I'd visit Cabo, I wouldn't live in Cabo. I would totally live in Guadalajara, and at the end of the video, I will explain where I probably will at least have a house or a place in Guadalajara relatively soon. So why is that? Here are the 5 reasons. Number 1, top of the list, or at least top of many of your lists. Not quite top of my list, but I put it number 1 for you guys because I love you. Guadalajara has the hottest women in Mexico by far. Now, I have been all over Mexico. I've been on the border cities. I've been to Mexico City a lot. I've been to all the tourist cities. I've been to Guadalajara. I can tell you hands down, unequivocally, that Guadalajara has the best looking women in Mexico of any city I've been to, and I have been all over Mexico. Now, as usual, I have to preempt the nitpickers. Have I been to literally every city in the country of Mexico? No, I have not. But I am still reasonably confident in saying Guadalajara probably has the best looking women in Mexico. Let me be very specific about this. Mexican women, I've mentioned this before, have very specific looking bodies. Mexican women generally do not have waists. They have hips, they have butts, they have boobs. They're very pretty. I have had many MLTRs and many hardcore, consistent, long-term, important FBs in my life who were Mexican. Matter of fact, right before I left the United States, my primary FB there was Mexican. So I love Mexican women. They're great, they're great, they're great. The challenge with Mexican women, there's 2 of them. One is a lot of Mexican women don't have waists. Their bodies kind of shaped, their torsos kind of have this square shape to it. It's just genetic. It's part of the race. I don't know why that happens. It just does. Does it happen to every single Mexican woman? No. But a lot of them, yes. Another challenge with Mexican women, particularly Mexican women who live in Mexico, is that once they get over the age of about 24 or 25, they get fat, just like American women. And this is not anything against Mexican women, because I've said this a billion times about American women. American women get fat. It's just what they do. European women are now starting to get really fat. And Mexico, just recently, in the last few years, has surpassed the United States as the fattest country in the world. And when you go to Mexico, you can see it in the women. Matter of fact, in many Mexican cities outside of Guadalajara, it's actually hard sometimes to find Mexican women over the age of 25 or 30 who are not chubby and or overweight and or fat. Again, it's just a genetic thing with them. I'm not bashing Mexican women. I love Mexican women. I've had sex with many Mexican women. I've had Mexican FBs and MLTRs. I've dated Mexican women. So don't get me wrong on this. I'm just stating a fact. In Guadalajara, you don't really have this dynamic. Particularly in the nice areas of Guadalajara, like Zapopan, you have women who look almost like European women. They are a little taller, they're a little skinnier, they actually have a shape to their body, they're very attractive, and damn. And if you don't believe me, go to Mexico City, spend a week in Mexico City, and just walk around and look at the women, talk to the women, get to the women, date the women if you want. Then spend a week in Guadalajara, okay? Just about anywhere in Guadalajara, but certainly northern Guadalajara if you really want the hot girls. You will immediately see a difference in the quality of women. It's just the way it is. I know I'm going to get people in the comments who say, "Oh, you're wrong, Caleb. In Mexico City, they're hotter," or in the border city, they're Tijuana, they're hotter. No, they're not. I'm sorry, they're not. I've been all over Mexico. They're not. They are really, really good looking in Guadalajara. Guadalajara has, hands down, the hottest women in Mexico. Period. End of story. That's just how it is. It's awesome. Matter of fact, Pink Firefly and I were both kind of surprised at how hot a lot of these women were. Both the younger women and the MILFs, the women, the cougars, the women in 30s and 40s, they're good looking too, across the board. It's not just the younger girls. They're good looking women in Guadalajara. Reason number 2 that is interesting to me, I like places with deep and rich history. One of the reasons I like going to London a lot, despite its problems, and there are many, is that London has a very deep sense of history that I feel is lacking in my own country, my ex-country, the United States. Guadalajara has a lot of really interesting history that is hard to find in other places. A lot of interesting churches, a lot of interesting buildings. It's a place where tequila was invented. There's a lot of interesting things to go see there if you're a history nerd like I am, and that's probably more of a personal tasting. If you don't care about history, then fine, you can live in Dubai like I do, but maybe I'm craving history a little more these days now that I live in Dubai. I love Dubai to death. It's fantastic. I'm never going to leave unless something goes horribly wrong with Dubai in the future. But I have to admit that Dubai is lacking in some history, just like the United States is lacking in some history. And there's a deep sense of culture and history in Guadalajara that I don't experience in lots of other cities. Really cool, at least to me. By the way, if you like this content, if you want more of this content, there's a few things you got to do. You need to subscribe to this channel. You need to click the dumb notification bell. You need to like this video and leave a comment on this video. I don't even care what the comment is, just leave anything you want. The more interactivity I get on this content, the more of this content I will provide for you for free. Reason number 3, this is probably the biggest reason even though it's number 3. This is probably my biggest reason. There are lots of upscale areas that are very cheap. So let me be clear about this. I have talked about Paraguay, and I've talked about one of the reasons I like Paraguay and places that are inexpensive like Paraguay is because they're really cheap. Paraguay is really cheap. However, Paraguay is an emerging economy. It is a second world country. In Guadalajara, this is not the case. In Guadalajara, it's very inexpensive, but there are parts of Guadalajara, again in Zapopan, where Pink Firefly and I stayed, that are very fancy and very first world and quite amazing. High-end restaurants, high-end hotels, high-end movie theaters, high-end malls, high-end services that are equal to anything you'd find in any first world major city like New York, Tokyo, Dubai, etc., except these things are much more inexpensive. They are shockingly cheap. Pink Firefly and I stayed at the Hyatt Andares, which is one of the highest end hotels in the nicer part of town. It's a place where like famous Mexican singers and famous Mexican politicians actually live, and it was $120 a night. Awesome. We were dining at very expensive high-end restaurants for like 25, 30 bucks total for the both of us in American dollars. Cheap, cheap, cheap. But unlike places like Paraguay, it felt like we were in a first world high-class area, which we were. That's part of the beauty of Guadalajara, is that you have high-class stuff that's cheap. Awesome. You can have cheap stuff, but often you'll miss the high-class stuff in places like Paraguay, for example. This is one of the more cool restaurants we went to. My son lives in Guadalajara. There he is. It was fun to visit with him. This is one of those fancy restaurants where their menu changes every day. Pink Firefly's cute. And you can see the character here. And also, here's one of the fancier malls in the Zapopan area. Like I said, it's pretty much equivalent to anything you'll find in, Western world, except that stuff here is much more cheap. Now, the name brand stuff is a little cheaper. But if you're talking about just fancy restaurants and things like that, that's a lot cheaper. Again, this is the exterior shot of Zapopan. This is Andares, where we were staying. And you can tell it looks pretty first world, right? It looks pretty first world as compared to most other Latin cities. And not all of Guadalajara looks like this. This is the nice part of Guadalajara, but it's a big part of Guadalajara. And so you can spend, a decent amount of time and just stay within this region and feel like you're, somewhere in the United States, things like that. There are some amazing ass restaurants down there. It's kind of this interior circle. That is both an office building and a hotel. But down in that circle down there, really good restaurants that are up against high-end restaurants in Hong Kong, London, New York. Again, I was very surprised at the quality of this stuff. Now, if you look out over here, that's kind of normal Guadalajara, which is a more typical Mexican city. And this is one of Pink Firefly's favorite places. This place was amazing. This is another one of amazing places. This is called the Panic Room. And my wife has very big boobs. And, the food here was some of the best food I've ever had in my entire life. Speaking of high class, if you want to work with me directly every month where you can get help from me, plus almost 100 how-to audio training, step-by-step instructions on how to improve your woman life and your business life, you can join the SMIC program at joinsmic.com. That is my monthly mentorship, coaching, and audio training program. Join SMIC.com. It lists everything you get there. It's one of the cheapest services I offer, and you can work with me directly. Reason number 4, and this was the reason that surprised me the most. I was shocked at this. I'm still kind of surprised at this. The weather is amazing pretty much year round. The weather is amazing. So, I went to Guadalajara after spending a month in Paraguay and then 2 weeks in Miami. And in Miami in the summer, you basically want to die. It is so hot and so humid, you basically want to jump off a cliff and kill yourself, and you get mauled by mosquitoes. So when you leave Miami, you're not only hot and sweaty and pissed off, you're covered with mosquito bites. Guadalajara, in the middle of summer, in August, which is usually the hottest month for most parts of the world, including here in Dubai, is about 79 degrees Fahrenheit and cool. It rains a little bit, and when it rains for 2 or 3 minutes, and then it stops. That's the worst it gets, and that's their rainy season. And it's like that pretty much year round. The only 2 hot months they really have there, but they're not even that hot, is June and July. And then in August it cools down, and it's like that all the way to the following June. Awesome. It is sunny and mild pretty much year round. I was amazed at how awesome the weather was. Guadalajara is probably one of the best places to go during the summer if you want a mild summer. It's amazing. I am still surprised. I still can't believe how amazingly nice that weather was pretty much the entire time we were there. There was one day we were there for about 2 weeks. There was one day we were there where it rained quite a bit for maybe about an hour. It really came down hard and then it stopped and it was fine. That was one day. I've talked to a lot of people who live in Guadalajara. My son lives in Guadalajara, and they all inform me that the weather is pretty nice and sunny and mild pretty much year round. Awesome. Amazing weather, huge plus for me. If you want some other ideas, by the way, on other countries to move to, you can click this video here on 11 great countries to move to. It's a video I did a while ago on 11 possible countries you can move to when guys ask me, well, where else can I move? Click that video right there, it's all there. Reason number 5, and I've mentioned this in prior videos, why this is important to me, and it's more important to me now that I'm married. It's an OLTR open marriage, but I am married, and so I care about my safety, and I care about the safety of my wife in ways I didn't really care when I was single. But Guadalajara is one of the safest cities in Mexico. Primarily, it is much safer than Mexico City. Now, there's 2 aspects to this. Number 1, in terms of actual crime, Guadalajara is safer than Mexico City. Now, there are places in Guadalajara, there are some areas that are not good, that are high crime, and you just don't go there. Very similar to when I talk about Bogota, Colombia. There are parts of Bogota, Colombia that are bad. You don't go there. It's very simple. And everyone who lives there knows where not to go, or not to go there at night in various other places. Just don't go there. If you stay out of those regions, Guadalajara is very safe, number 1. Number 2, in terms of treatment of women, and again, I wouldn't care if I wasn't married, but I'm married, so this is a factor. If my wife was walking around Mexico City by herself, she would get harassed. I know she would. It's just part of the culture in Mexico City. Guadalajara, she's fine. She's perfectly fine. Women are perfectly fine for the most part in Guadalajara. It is a little different in the Latin world than in the Western world. Obviously, you have to make adjustments for this. But in terms of just walking around, my wife is safe in terms of getting harassed, much safer in Guadalajara than other big Mexican cities, especially places like Mexico City. So that's another great reason why Guadalajara is awesome. So in terms of my plans for Guadalajara, my plan is to have one home in the North or South America region, but outside of America and Canada, because those are collapsing countries. Then my primary home in Dubai, then a third home somewhere in Asia. temporarily, to be nice to my very American wife, that home is going to temporarily be in Scottsdale, Arizona. Briefly, for a while. Once she is comfortable finally detaching herself from the United States, that home will shift to probably Guadalajara, Mexico. I do not want a home long-term in America for many obvious reasons if you studied my past content. I want that home to be outside the United States and outside of Canada. Mexico is perfectly fine. Panama is another option, Colombia is another option, and even Paraguay maybe is another option. But I think of all those options, I like Guadalajara, Mexico the best. Matter of fact, we tried looking at houses at Guadalajara, Mexico, but they're in gated communities and you're not allowed in those unless you have an appointment with a real estate agent. So the next time Pink Firefly go to Guadalajara, and I'll probably be there in about a month or two, we are going to look at homes there. And we're going to start checking it out in terms of an actual place to live and to stay and have a real base there. So I'll have my primary residence in Dubai, a base that I stay at in Guadalajara, and I'll still always maintain Paraguay as my backup base. And then I'll have a third primary home somewhere in Asia, as I've discussed in the past. So Guadalajara is very likely going to be one of my new homes relatively soon. Not tomorrow, not next month, maybe not next year. But within a few years, probably having a house in Guadalajara. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. And a bonus is my son spends half the year in Guadalajara, so that's pretty cool too. If you want some more ideas on some countries you could move to as a man, this video right here, I cover the top 5 countries to move to for men. You should definitely check it out. I will see you in the next video.